G'day Bulldogs fans, or Doggies fans as I normally say. Sorry, all things Bulldogs podcast episode 29. It's getting closer to our first trial matches, so really much looking forward to that. It's been a big week, so a fair bit to report. But first up, we've got this competition. I've only got about 20 entrants so far. I didn't expect to get too many. I was thinking 50 maximum. But you've still got till Friday to enter the competition. Then I'm closing it. It's a bit of a reward for the people who have obviously been contributing to the channel. And a lot of them have put their teams up, which I'm really grateful for. And I think someone's going to get pretty close. But look, I'm going to drop a couple of hints from as to maybe some of those positional battles in this podcast, because with the opposed sessions that have been happening since last week, I think there's a couple of positions that we can safely assume are going to go a certain way. But I could be completely wrong, and then you've got injuries, and then you've got trial games and that sort of stuff. So there's a lot more to play out. We'll talk about Tyrell May. I know I've talked a lot about him, and we'll look at the article about him coming to the Bulldogs. There's also the podcast last week where he said that he's let the Roosters know he's speaking to clubs specifically about the option of him reuniting with his brothers. We'll see how that pans out, and I'll just give you my thoughts on that and just some of the possible scenarios I think that could play out there. I think we are a big chance, and I named him as one of my 5 to target for next year, knowing that we won't have quite as much salary cap leaving the club. Still quite a few off contract, about 8 or 9, and a number of those players, 4 of those are front row forwards that are off contract. So it's a keen discussion to have a look at what's going to happen there, with the ideal being that the 4 props that are off contract all have breakout seasons in 2024. And, we keep that 10-year cycle running where we win a premiership every 10 years, I think it is. We win or we get runner-up on the 4. So we're due to win the grand final based on the fact we've got runner-up in 2014, we've got runner-up in 1994. We might have even got runner-up in 1974 as well, I think. So it's uncanny how it's all matched up. And look, there's some good players there, as you'll see. So you'll see in the little banner going across the bottom that the opposed sessions, there's been some interesting intel coming out of that from people who've gone to training and noted where everyone's been playing in those scrimmages and the opposed sessions and stuff like that. So I'm going to give you a bit of intel on that. And that should cover it off. I'm going to show you some of these rego plates, which you can buy, getting sorted out in conjunction with the Nighttime podcast, which they're based in Newcastle. Fantastic bunch of people, and Dean and Chris and the like. And it's like the footy show. Like you can ring up and talk about footy on their Nighttime talk. You can go on the show, interact. They go to games, give away stuff all the time, support charities, all off their own back. So it's really, really good. And they're helping it in conjunction with a good small business to put up this merch for all NRL fans, which is fantastic. And I've got myself a few of those, and I'm going to give one of those away to the competition winner. So I'll give you a look at them now, actually. So let's have a quick look at it. So there you go. That first one straight up is Jacob Preston. So I've got that coming to me. So I said I wanted Presto. Looks fantastic. Got some real good pics of him there, scoring that, putting that left arm out. And I'll go through them all. We've got the Fox, Josh Adokar. It's actually changed a bit from that. A bit of OCD with the R's, so they changed the font on that a little bit, but it looks similar to that, which is fantastic. There's the one. So that's what it's changed to. And Jacob Kiraz. Bloody brilliant. So that's a metal registration plate. And this is one that one of the All Things Bulldogs moderators, Jimmy Rustler, he came up with this concept, and they put it onto they put the design together immediately. We've got all the premiership years there from 1938 and his 4 favourite, logos that we've had in that time. So you got the berries, Canterbury-BankstownBulldogs from the 80s. Then you got the Bulldog symbol that came out, and the one that we're running with at the moment. And I like it too. It's probably my second favourite, but I'm a big fan of, the Bulldog with the blue background and the black. So, yeah, I might even have to buy that one as well. And they only cost $30, but you can win one if you name your 17. And it's the same or closest to Serrato's 17 that runs out on the field against the Eels in round 1. It'll be named an hour before they run out, and that 1 hour team list, finalised team list, is the one we'll utilise. So like and subscribe while you're there. You can put it on this episode if you want. It will count, and then when that round happens, we'll have the winner. And I pretty much won't talk about it since then. And you will get a couple of clues potentially. I can't guarantee they are, but just I'm putting 2 and 2 together onto who's going to run out, especially in the halfback role. All right. We will also look at, well, let's talk about that now. So you have opposed sessions, and in these opposed sessions, they have an A team and a B team usually. And it sort of tells you a little bit. So in today's opposed sessions, the Fox wasn't there, Critter didn't play, Sutton was injured, I think. Tracy's just come back today, so he wasn't in the opposed session, wasn't ready for that yet. Roman Fatala Mariner was there, but he didn't participate. Might have a little niggle or something. Chris Patolo, I think he's got a little injuries as well. He hasn't been seen doing as much lately. So not to raise any sort of concerns or anything, but there's a few. There's always ins and outs with these things, and they're professionals that train full time, and sometimes full timers have to take time off or whatever, or they go and do other things. But you'll notice a lot of those people are in the leadership group, so probably they might have been doing something else, might have been doing some promotions. You never know. But in the first team, so the positions that they picked, seeing them playing. In the first team, Taff was at fullback. Wilson was on the left wing, obviously replacing the Fox, who wasn't participating. Cherry was playing left centre. And then you had Hayes Perrin playing right centre. So now obviously Critter wasn't there, and Tracy wasn't training as well. Carraz was on the right wing, and then you had Birdo in at 5'8", and Drew Hutchison was a halfback. They had Max King and Sam Hughes as the front rowers. Liam Knight wasn't playing today either, so he's another one who wasn't there. Reid Marnie was hooker. We had Josh Curran on the left, filling in for Viliami. Jacob Preston on the right, because obviously the right edge is where he'll be playing this year. We had Kurt Mann who was playing at lock. Now, Kurt and Curran, we're expecting are going to be in that role to play the lock position. It could be a situation where men or current start on the bench as well, because Josh can add a lot of impact off the bench, and that's something we do need, and play long minutes and and basically contribute as a top 13 player. Some players start on the bench but play most of the game, so you know what I mean. I think he's going to be one that fits into that sort of role. I think I'll start him sometimes, bench him other times. In the second side, so there was Joash Papali'i. So these were written down. Someone who saw the training session wrote all these down. So there could be a little bit of error in perception, but they're pretty trusted sources. Eli Clark and Harry Hayes, which you'll think those two will be permanent fixtures in the New South Wales Cup, and they may play a bit of Ron Massey as well, depending on how injuries go in first grade and how well those contingency plans are going. You expect that Blake Wilson will be the next man up, whether it be left or right wing, or him and Tyrell Skelton will be sort of fighting for that role. Obviously, Hayes Perrin will probably want to have something to say about that. And then you've got the likes of Bronson Cherry. Look, I think Critter will be playing centre. That's my tip now, although I've put my team out saying Critter will be fullback. If I could change my competition entry, I would. But each to their own. Everyone's got to do what they think the coach is going to do, and there's still more to play with trials and everything like that. So I think Critter's got one position in the centre, and you'd think that Critter's going to be on the left edge with Burton and Kickout. And then you've got the ex-Penrith left edge, and you add the Fox to that. That's pretty classy left edge, if you must say. If you thought it was good last year, when they were all underdone, and you had a rookie out there in Alamotti, who I think will do well at the Panthers, by the way. This year with no World Cup, basically no excuses. And there is some cohesion there because they're all ex-teammates, so they should be able to click pretty quickly, you would think. And that's why I think Serrato will go with that left edge for the benefit of the side and the balance of the team, and to give that team the best chance to build confidence and to win. And then he'll evolve it as he needs to and moves forward. But the big one to me is Drew Hutchison. So I'll get back to the seconds team because I got off track. Samrani was on the right centre, so good on him. And they had Skelton at right wing. Joash Papali'i and Khaled Rajed were sharing the fullback role. And Toby Sexton was the halfback. At 5'8", we had Joey O'Neill and Bailey Biondioto sharing the 5'8" role. In the forward pack, you had Jack Todd and Curtis Moran sharing that one prop role. Then Kawasa Fuamasili and Lipoi Hopoi sharing the other one. Jake Turpin and Bailey Haywood shared the hooker role. And then you had Tony Katoga and Reece Hoffman sharing the left edge. Jaden Salmon was on the right edge, and Harrison Edwards was the lock. And there were your opposed sessions. But yeah, this there's a few that weren't there for the day, obviously. So you'd think that Knight slipped straight in. You'd think that Salmon is going to be a bench player in first grade. And yeah, I think Harrison Edwards might be the next one in line ahead of Moran, Todd, Hoasa for the forwards. And you think that with Ryan Sutton having a bit of an injury, Sam Hughes is going to be right up there. And with Patolo potentially an injury as well. Not sure about that. I'm not sure about that at all, but I think there could be. That gives him a chance to join that side as well And as I said, Kickout's left edge. Curran's going to play. You know, he basically said it's or Knight said in an article that it's Kickout's the forward leader. So Curran's going to come off the bench or play in that lock position, which I think makes sense. You bring Kurt Mann with that really good leg speed through the middle. He makes some good yards, actually. But that's on the premise that we're getting off to good starts and stuff. And you think that we need to have someone like Josh Curran there to start, to have that energy from the start of the match to get things going. So, look, I think Taft's your fullback. I think Critter's got a centre position, and then you've got three people fighting for the other centre position in Cherry, Tracy, and potentially Hayes Perrin, because you've got to remember, play fullback for 19 rounds. I think the coach had a lot of faith in him, and I think he's got a year in his contract, and they're going to give him an opportunity at some stage, whether people like it or not. And people shouldn't talk down about him because he's a Bulldog. He does give it his all, and if you go and watch through our highlights, he did have some good moments last year. Obviously, like most people in our team, he had some bad ones as well. So there you go. There's a hot tip. Drew Hutchison, I believe, is going to be has been told he's the first round. He's the halfback of the side to start, and the contingency plan would fall with Toby Sexton, Bailey Biondioto, Bailey Haywood, Joey O'Neill, and the like. Probably in that order. As the halves coming through, if there's injuries or if they're just banging down the door because they're playing so well. So hopefully we see, it's one of these catch-22s, isn't it? You want the team that they run out with to do well and to win every week. And then just to have, if something goes wrong, to have the next best man step up. So I believe Connor Tracy will get into this and start in the centre position outside of Critter, and Blake Taft will be the fullback, and I think Drew Hutchison's going to be a half. So we'll see how that pans out, but from the opposed sessions that have been happening, stuff that Serrato said in the media, I think that's where it's going to start. I do not believe that Serrato would wait until after the trials to say, this is my halfback, and this is my hooker, and this is my fullback. I just can't see that being a way that Penrith would ever go about it, that Melbourne would ever go about it, that the Roosters would ever go about it, even the West Tigers or the Dragons. I think they all know, right, who's got the job. And those people, they're showing them faith now. They're coming up with all the plans and all the strategies right now about how they're going to do things. They've got everyone playing the same game, though, in the A team and the B team. They're all trying to play the same way, obviously using the individual, flavours and stuff like that. But and we're going to see from first grade through to Harold Matts a similar style, a similar strategy, and a similar attitude. That's what I think is going to happen. So there you go. It won't be a long one tonight, which is good. So what we're going to talk about next is Tyrell May. And there he is. He's at the back there next to Joshy Curran. I've also got sort of just giving myself a bit of a rap here. I said for 2025, we got him for 2024, which is fantastic. Terrell May, love what I've talked about him a fair bit, so you should know that I'm in favour of this guy. A lot of Bulldogs fans saw what I saw, very much on the same page. So let's talk about it. Cody Nikorima, that was an experienced signing. Someone who got great stats last year, getting back to near his best. Has played some good games, especially against the Bulldogs. Come off the bench for Souths and got a beautiful offload to Latrell to win the game for them against us, going back into 2022. We should have won that match. And last year he played well for the Dolphins in the game that they would just escape with that one. But he had some good games. I think that ship sailed, and it was probably never going to happen anyway. Just my thoughts. Luke Metcalf, if that kid's ever available and wants to come to Australia and put on a Bulldogs jersey and compete with the other halves in our system, do it. You know, he's a good player, a very highly rated player. Daniel Saifidi would definitely have him come to the Bulldogs. His experience, he knows how to hold the middle up. He's not in the top 4 best props in the game, but at his best, he can play at that level. And I think as these guys get older, they get better from what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing too many of the older props get worse. And when I say older, in the prime of their careers, like this guy is, he's in the prime. This is when they start to really hit their straps. And, yeah, the Knights probably not going to want to let him go, but they might have some choices to make because they've got his brother and they've got another big bopper there in Thompson, who's a very good prospect. Plus, you know, some others coming through. You know, you've got Jack Haverington there, who's still young. They've got some good forwards in their pack. So, look, that was me talking about those players that I was targeting. Tyrell May. So David Ricciardo and Michael Carianis both wrote this, apparently. Interesting. So he's one of the Roosters' finds of the year, and the Dogs have zoned in with a multi-year offer, apparently. They repeat themselves twice. He's playing in the English Super League for last year's runners-up, the Catalan Dragons, and playing quite well over there. He's been pitched with an asking price of $500,000 a season. 183 centimetres, only about 6 foot, 6'1", and probably weighs about 105 kilos. He's not the biggest prop, but he's someone who could develop into a 110 kilo prop for sure, and still maintain his speed at the line. He's got good. He steps at the line, which is good. He can break tackles. He plays with a bit of vigor and aggression. He's not a dirty player at all, but plays really well. Obviously, with the help of the Lindsay Collins, he's got Spencer Lanu coming through this year. They're going to be a good pack, and they can do some things. Brandon Smith getting hit in his straps. Sia Wong and Nofahu White. And they're all tied up on long-term deals. So this guy is probably going to get himself a good deal, and I think there's a good chance of he leaving. But I wouldn't count out the Roosters bringing those two players to Bondi. And even though they have a lot of salary cap tied up, and we know there's a sombrero and all that sort of stuff, they have Suoliti leaving. Luke Keary's off contract. You don't know what's going to go, how long Tedesco's body's going to hold up. He's come back from a few big injuries. He's only 31 this year, something, or just turned 30 or 31. Still young enough. And you got Joey Manu as well. So, you know, they could do with another winger. Their big boy on the wing, he's not getting any younger as well. So they just got Dom Young. Taylor's probably going to want about 300 grand, you'd think, minimum. And Tyrone, you'd think's going to be, I don't know what sort of contract he could get. And could be that, you know, jack of all trades player for them. I don't see them being ruled out and keeping the three of them, or getting the three of them. And also see the Panthers as a team capable of doing that. Now, The Panthers have got their two big boys. I don't think they can afford to pay Tyrell May $500,000, but he might be able to come at the right price to join his brother Taylor, and then Tyrone could come back and do it. As they always have a position open every year for someone on a minimum contract or a little bit more that comes in and does a job for him for a season or two and then moves on again. And usually moves on at a better price because they've had a good season doing the job for the Panthers. So I wouldn't rule them out as well. But for the Dogs, he's a must for us. I'd be willing to pay him $600. And the reason I say that is we don't have any prop forwards that are being paid more than, what, 300 or 400 grand a season. We've got 4 props off contract: Chris Patolo, Sam Hughes, Liam Knight, and Max King. Now, I want Patolo not to get injured this year and to have a good season. I want Samuel Hughes to progress. Let's hope that he does, because I think he's a player with a big future. And not just because Gus said it. When he came across last year, halfway through the season and played reserve grade, he's wearing some number 24, 25. He sort of went past a few players that straight up, played 4 or 5 matches and then got injured. Scored a good try. He looks promising. A former edge back rower. He's still very young. Parramatta said we're going to develop him into a prop. And if you watch the difference between him and a player like Jaden Tanner last year, when Sam got his chance at first grade, he didn't take a backward step. Jaden, I know Tanner probably didn't get as many opportunities as he would have liked or probably deserved, but he just didn't seem like he was an NRL first grader at that point. And obviously he wasn't. It was before his time, and he's a player might needs to develop, and I think he's gone back to the Panthers or gone somewhere. Can't remember where he's gone. Did well for us in the New South Wales Cup last year, tried his heart out. But yeah, Sam Hughes is another level to him, and I think Harrison Edwards is another one that's shown that he can cut it in the NRL, and Curtis Moran gets out there and just runs as hard as he can and without fear, and did some damage and scored some good tries for us, So you want players that, like Samuel Hughes, to really do well, because we're not going to have to pay him a fortune. And if he can just keep developing into that Bulldog front row that we need, that's fantastic. But they can't do it on their own. So if Liam Knight is in and out with injury this year, well, if Ryan Sutton's in and out with injury, Max King's going to, is he going to be able to hold it up again for another 12 months, playing injured, playing tough, while people are coming in and out, It's going to be even harder this year, I think. So they've got a lot of responsibility on their shoulders, and we're going to have to rely on some the players like Raymond Fatala-Mariner and Ryan Sutton and the like are really going to have to step it up if we're going to make it this year, over this season. So got some fantastic outside backs. We've got some real strike on our edges. There's a makings there of a good team, but we need those forwards to step up. And to be honest, those 4 forwards could have a really solid year, right? Be good to have a couple of them that can make over 100 metres a game. That'd be a good start. Just over a season, to average that. And you could actually add Terrell May to our squad and keep those 4 props that we've got. Because it's literally, I feel we're down. We need another prop in our top 30 anyway. I think we're shy of one. And I think the fact that we've got the likes of Curran and RFM and Sutton in there, that they're sort of on the smaller end of things. So, and Harrison Edwards obviously isn't huge, who's on the scene and coming through the system. Same with obviously Curtis Moran, who to me looks like a lock every day of the week. He's like literally looks like he could play halfback. He's not that big. He's not that small either, but he's not big. And I'm not saying he should play halfback, okay? He's pretty skillful though. So yeah, Tyrell May. I think he made 150 metres in a game towards the end of the year. Played more and more minutes. I've said it over and over. If you go watch his highlights, go watch some of those games where he was there and Jared Hargrove wasn't, and the Roosters were going forward and making an impact. Now, he did have the likes of Lindsay Collins and Fletcher Baker and, and Crichton and Radley and the like. They're all good players. So it wasn't like he was doing it on his own. But when Jared's not there, who leads that pack, you sort of expect the Roosters to really struggle. And in some games, they really have. But he was sort of the difference. And you talk about these Sam Walkers and that coming back into that side and making a huge difference. They don't do it unless that forward pack functions. And Terrell May was a huge cog in that wheel. And that's why I think he's essential. He showed that he can play with purpose and he can match it with the big boys at a pretty young age. 24, he's got the world ahead of him. But that makes him the same age as the players like Chris Patolo. You know what I mean? And Sam Hughes. They're all the same age. Matt Bird, Stephen Crichton. They're all the same age. And that's why I think he would be a great pickup as well. I say this a lot. You're looking for cohesion. You're looking for people who are raised in the same generation, understand the same sort of things, who see things in a similar way, and it just helps them becoming mates and that stuff, as well. That's all 100% what we need in our club. It's all well and good to go and buy 10 players, but if they don't gel, you don't have a team. But I think the players they've brought will gel because a lot of them are ex-teammates or they've come from systems where, they understand how to, how to make things work and what standards are there and all that sort of stuff, all those buzzwords they talk about. His brother's coming. Tyrell May, I see as fitting straight into our system. And another Penrith player though, but he's had a pretty bad injury. Is he going to be susceptible to that? So it'll be interesting to see how he goes this season. I think he's a player Penrith won't want to lose at this point. And he had a good combination when he came into grade with his young centre. And I think the Panthers won't want to let him go. But in saying that, the Fox will be off contract in 2026. He's not getting any younger. Are Canterbury going to want to keep paying Josh Adokar $500,000? He might still be worth that. He might want more. You never know. He could be improving. He could be maintaining all his speed. He looks so fit. You just don't know. He might have another 5 years in him. Josh Adokar, or longer. Sprinting down the wing. He's a talented guy and a great guy at the club. And I hope he stays till he retires. But they've got to work that out. You could bring Taylor in at 25. Does that mean we have to, who Hayes Perham goes off contract at that point? Will he be retained? Don't know. Well, is Bronson Cherry going to make it in the NRL? These are all question marks. I think he will, and I hope he will, and I want him to become an Origin rep. it's still a risk. It's still a question. So you couldn't say the Dogs would want to launch into saying, yep, we'll sign Taylor and we'll sign Tyrone. I don't see where Tyrone fits into the puzzle with the amount of halfbacks we've got coming through, and the extra experience they brought in with Hutchison, and the fact you got Kurt Mann there who can do a job in the halves as well, Salmon who can play there. You've just got a lot of options already. So to bring Tyrone in, he could play lock. As a ball-playing lock, he's big enough. But he's also had some bad injuries as well. So are these guys going to be susceptible to injury? What are they going to cost? Look, if they could say we'd sign the whole three of them for 1.2, we could definitely afford it and keep the current props we've got and probably only shed a few players and then upgrade some juniors. But, it's a lot to go, whatever the wise old saying is. A lot's to happen between now and then. And hopefully we play so well and have some youngsters like Todd and Lipboy, Hotboy, put on a bit of bulk and really step up and knock on the door and say, hey, we're going to play for the Bulldogs next year. You're going to pick us in the top 30, Gus. That's the ideal for me. And the best way for that is if they're playing really well in a team that's winning, at least half its games. That's a good position to be in. And then maybe you don't need a Tyrell May. But for me, at $500,000 a season, if you can get him, we've got to get him to the team. So there you go. Terrell May. All right, guys. Well, we've talked a fair bit about all that. Thanks for tuning in to episode 29. Can't wait for the first trials. It's going to be a double header as well, which I talked about the other day. 2 games at Belmore in the pre-season, the Storm and the Sharks. Storm often don't have their best teams in or anything close to it when they're doing their trials. So we'll see how they go. Their trial form means nothing to round one, which they've won every round one for how many years now? 18 years or something. Ridiculous. So that's going to be very interesting to see. I think Panthers play the Storm in round one this year, so that's going to be very, very interesting to see how that game goes. But I'll tell you what, it'll be a much more exciting game. Canterbury versus Parramatta round one. And you know what'll be more exciting? If you pick the team that Cameron Serrato picks and that you've gone into this little competition with 20 or 30 loyal listeners, and you get to win one of these. But you won't win that one because I don't have it. If you're dead set want it, I'll probably go buy it for you. But you could win Jacob Preston, Josh Adokar, or Jacob Carraz. We also have a 2XL rugby jersey for sale. It's from I think it's from the 90s. I've got to see what year it's from. Well, not for sale, but you can win that if you want. It's a 2XL. And we've got a 2024 calendar as well. If you wanted that, I can send you that as well. But these are metal, made by a local New South Wales business, Sydney business, that loves doing this design stuff. And you can do it for any team, any club. So let us know if you need something. You want some merch like that, I can point you in the right direction. But there you go. That's it. That's episode 29. Go the Dogs. And thanks for tuning in. Ended up still taking 40 minutes. I thought I was going to be done in about 25. Night, everyone. Go the Dogs.